Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome
Hello.
you all once again for our INOAUG Explore session of October. So this week we are going to have two interesting topics. Before that, you all might have watched the recent Oracle Cloud World where Larry had presented about Oracle Apex, mainly the power of Apex used in developing enterprise applications in a secure manner. So that shows the popularity of Oracle Apex technology, and we are all honored and blessed to have such using into this community. So thanks for joining. The first session, we are going to have it single sign-on in Oracle Apex using JWT. So the authentication thing from Ashish. So Ashish is an Oracle ACE associate and is a member of INOAUG, and he has developed various Apex applications, including the plugins, and he's an active blogger as well as conference speaker. So we are proud to have Ashish here, and yeah, so let's, without any delay, let's get into the session. Over to you, Ashish.
Oh, thank you, Richard. It was actually a little too much for me. I thought like I would done that. Anyway, good afternoon for all the Indian folks and wherever you are. So it's my greetings for you. And first of all, thank you, for inviting me for this pretty interesting topic. So recently I have been working for that, and I have seen like it should be sharing with the community so that people can leverage it in their applications, and your customers should be amazed like after seeing this. So without just delaying no further, so I just move it to the first slide we have. This is the welcome slide for everyone. It's just that Xplore, it's good initiative going through. So I'm pleased to have the initiative, the first one, like the first as in this particular webinar. I'll just move it to the next one. So that's about me. I'm Oracle Apex developer and have been working in this industry for more than 8 years. And I have been in Oracle ACE associate. So Oracle Groundbreakers team kind of recognized my contribution to the community. I'm contributing a lot in open source plugin. Those are MIT licensed plugin. Also, we develop for our customers as well for having licensed plugins. Blogging and content creation was my college hobby, so I'm just following that. It's just that, what do you say, you are getting paid for something. So these all things are I was loving, so I'm just doing this. I'm a conference speaker. I have been speaking in the Oracle office hours as well. CSM and ASM, these are my certifications for the development life cycle. So it's a certified Scrum Master and Agile Scrum Master. I am the founder of Onto Solution, where we provide solutions to our customer, innovate, and we just met our customers' goal for achieving or becoming the market leader. You can contact me on any of my contact locations. Sort of, I'm available on Twitter. I'm always reachable on email, and all my knowledge is available on the blogs.ontosolutions.com. So let's just jump into further. So today's topic will be the Apex authentication and the SSO using the JWT. So a lot of acronym here. Apex already the acronym, and SSO is a single sign-on, and the JWT is the JSON Web Token. So let's get into how much we can just learn from this one and how this will change our life further. So disclaimer before I speak a word about this particular topic. Whatever I say, it's solely based on my knowledge and understanding. It doesn't mean what Oracle is saying, what anyone is saying. So I'm fully responsible for my words, nobody else. So if I'm doing anything wrong, so I can just simply correct myself. And if anything gets change in your life because of me, so I'm gonna be really thankful. So let's get in the tour. So it's gonna be, we'll just go through the authentication, and we check the single app login, and we'll try with the session sharing, And eventually we'll just jump to the JWT JSON Web Tokens, which is gonna be two-step process tokenization first, and then we have the login URL. First thing, when any application, when it comes to your mind, it is like how to get into the application. So authentication is that process which allows you to recognize whether you are the valid user or not, sort of. So this is the typical screen we have in any application where we say username and the password, and we will hit the login. So this is the typical application interface, and where you just jump in and get into the application if you're the valid user. So let's see what basically you need in the Oracle Apex to get into when it comes to the logging into the system. So this is the typical code, a pretty basic code for the login, which is this is a function in the Oracle database, which says, I usually don't show codes, but in this demo, I was thinking, okay, let's have the taste of it as well. So demo login is the function name. I can use the pen as well, right? Yeah. So yeah, this one. So this is the demo login function where we have the username and password, two parameters where user will put from the screen, and we will just use through our function, and eventually we just validate everything from the logic behind in our function. So this is pretty basic a condition I'm using, whether the username is demo and the password is demo, or both are in uppercase. So if these two conditions met, we'll just simply say, okay, this is the valid user. If they don't match, so we just say this is not the valid user. So next thing, if we say how basically we use this function in the our Epic application. So I'll quickly jump to my application where we can show how the application works how the authentication works in the application. So two things I'm going to show. First of all, we'll see the a function, what you have just seen in the presentation. So function would be a demo login I have created. So that is same function you have seen in the presentation. It is just having two parameters, and the username and password are demo. And whenever you get this, and you get the authentication. So further down the line, if you see how can you use it in the application. So you just need to go to the shared component, two ways to go. Number one, when you are on the application, this is the middle one, shared component card. You can click and you're directly into the shared component, or another shared component icon on the top right, just before the edit page button. So here under the security section, you can go to the authentication screens, where you can create any authentication scheme. So I'm using login as in my demo authentication scheme, where you can put it any of your name, and the scheme type should be custom, and then you can simply go under the authentication function name field, where just put the demo, put the function name, and you are ready to use the function. You're ready to use the application authentication. So now if you see, this is the, I can just simply run it, right? So that it'll feel like, yeah, it'll feel like running it. So here, if you pass it demo, and you log in, so you jump into the system, right? Yeah, simply just get into the system if your login credentials are fine. And if you try something funky, let's say this is not what I was doing, so it should just return it like, okay, you were not the valid user. So that was the first thing of having authentication in your application. If we further move to our presentation, and we would love to have the session sharing approach, how do we basically, for example, you have the tons of application in your workspace. So where you are seeing, application, red application, black application, green application, and the yellow one. So there are 9, and I'm going to say these are available in the same workspace. So for that case, we can simply, assume like there should be a way to access each application from, each other. So here our plan is to have a black app should be accessing yellow app. So the idea is you have the app, you created the session after logging in, and once you log in, and you'll get the access for another app using this app session as well. So you had the smiley face. So that was the idea for the session sharing. And if you see how and what kind of session sharing we have in the Apex available, it's like three sort of we have right now. Application sharing, if you say you don't want to share any session along with these applications available in the same workspace, so you can simply put any session cookie name, and this should not be this application, any of the applications should not be accessing any other, I mean, cookie name. So that's called, we call it session not sharing. And if we would love to have all the application available in the workspace should share each other session, so we can just enable this particular session sharing approach. And the bottommost, which is commonly known, commonly famous in the market, I usually use it. So it's like you can define two or more than two applications basically using their sessions. So second one is limitless. All the applications should be sharing the sessions, but the custom one, you can define how many can access the session basically. So I'll go further in the demo. How can we see this one? Or I'll just show where and how can you simply put the cookie name and you can simply access the application. So probably the demo should be because that's about this SSO, not the session sharing, but I was just giving some idea. So steps will be for this particular approach we have is kind of we should be logging into one application, and then we try to access another application from one. So it's like app one was having, and okay, this is a live demo fixes. So we are accessing app one or app two from app one. So that is the idea of session sharing. And how do we basically define these session sharing stuff? So that is kind of, you go to your authentication scheme, like we were there. If I simply go again, so you go to your authentication scheme and you click on the session sharing tab where you say, I'm not sharing. If you see the types, I'm not sharing any session. So that is the number one. You say I'm sharing workspace, through the workspace. So all the applications should be sharing this one with having this same configuration of the session sharing. And the bottom one is the custom, where you put any custom cookie name. So any of the application across the workspace having the same cookie name can basically access the can basically log in from each other. So that is the idea of session sharing here. So that's what I want to share on this one, so that we can have some flavor of going towards the SSO. Now, if we try to understand what is SSO, and what kind of flavors available in the market. So Oracle Access Manager is widely known to use the SSO, and in which I have noticed a few things. I just don't want to discourage anything, like how and when this is going to be hurting your customer. But it's just that it is slightly costly, and you need the people to maintain. So somehow you need the experts as well. This is my personal opinion. And when your access manager just collab with the money your customer is expanding, so you will have some unhappy faces, something like this one. So that is kind of you would avoid, and you should avoid. Your customer should not be angry on you because of any reason. So usually how SSO works, it's just that you basically follow two steps. Step number one, you create one access token, and step number two, you use that access token to your login URL or any URL to access the application from another platform / application / any other technology as well, if you like. So this is Apex URL I'm using here, just so that we are on the same page. We are doing in Apex. So this is to get the token, And second one is to logging into the system, into the application. The same application I'm using, what we have just seen using our authentication function. So let's get into what is JSON Web Tokens first of all. So you can find and read out on JWT.io. This is basically our open industry standard. And if you see, they allow basically claims between two parties. So that's how this JSON JWT works. So I have read slightly about this one. So if you want to know more about this one, how and what kind of standards they follow. So JSON Web Token, they have their site as well. So this is just an idea how they are doing it. So I just added in the presentation to see from where Oracle and we are kind of doing it. So next one, if you see the architecture of JWT, so architecture of JWT is kind of divided into three pieces, three steps, or what do you say, three categories, whatever you call it. So it has the everything is encoded. First of all, you see this one. This is the encoded token you get from the JWT, and it is divided into three pieces. Number one, the header, what kind of algorithm you're using, what kind of decoding type you're using. So here we are using JWT and HS256 is the algorithm. Payload information, if you would like to push your information from any kind of information, name, type, login ID, user ID from one platform, one application to another one. And last but not the least, it is the verification signature. You need to just push the signature, what you have, using which one you have decoded this one. So that is kind of third thing in the JWT token system. Everything is kind of separated by full stop or dot, whatever we call it. So this is the kind of architecture what JWT follows. And if you see how Apex is doing, how Apex is invoking it into this, our Apex wall. So Oracle has created one API, Apex_JWT, which has three functions, two functions and one procedure. So they are responsible to do the same thing what JWT is doing using their algorithms. So encoding is to encode any string sort of. So it is used to generate the tokens. Decode function is used to just decode it after the encoding whenever you push it to the system. Validation is just to validate whether all the information you have pushed through using that signature is valid when you are trying to log in. So only one particular note here I have found in the Apex_JWT. It just follows the symmetric encryption. So this is not kind of very interesting to follow. So I just put it together, like the information there has to be symmetry around the signatures things and all. So I mean the only problem here, if you're using some kind of asymmetric encryptions, so you might not be able to use the Apex_JWT. But anyway, we have the jackpot sort of symmetry encryptions are also very kind of powerful, so we can use them. We are very secure. Okay, now how do we invoke into the Apex system? It's like we use the sentry functions. What is sentry? So just thought let's have a little grasp on it. It's just that guard, especially a soldier posted at the given spot to prevent the passage of unauthorized person. So it allows or stops users to get in based on the their authenticity. So that's how it is. How do we use it in the system in the Apex application? It's very same. I'm being back and forth showing. Go to your authentication and simply just see under the settings, you can just put the sentry function there. And this function I have actually created in the same database. This is the sentry function. Meanwhile, it is loading, I can just go further. So yeah, that is the code for the generating sentry function, generating the tokens. Where I'm using login user and the timing, 60 as in a minute, and into 5 is a 5 minute is the expiry date for that particular token. And this is kind of, item values we are kind of pushing through. And if you see in our application as well, I kind of blew a little bit. Okay, the sentry function is to basically access the, decode the token key you generated through. So to generate a token key, I have created a API in the same workspace from where I am kind of using, or is it generating the token based on the same flavor you have seen here. So we have the username, and then we have the other particular items we are going to push. And eventually we have the signature key, which is a key, which is very crucial in the encryption and decryption. So I'm using my name as in the token key and all these three parameters. So if you simply call it from the browser, I'll just quickly go, and if you see, I call it from the browser, so you get the particular token separated by the dots. And the next step you just need to do is copy it with your, I'm not sure if I'm showing my notepad, but if you just use the same code with the to your token key, and then you just get into the system with your past values. So I was using these custom ID, login ID, and some dummy values, so I'm pushing it. So that is how you log into the system. But if you slightly play around with your token key, let's say I'm deleting something and I hit this one, so system will just get you out just because your token key isn't valid. So if I further go down the line, this is the sentry function, which is doing all the decoding stuff back and forth. And initially when I was showing the sentry function was that, so I thought like the token should be the first one. Where I just give you a quick briefing over here. It's just that X01 is the parameter we are using to pass the token with the login URL. And eventually we are kind of validating through apex_jwt.valid package using the particular signature, which is we have while we have decoded it already using the same signature we have used to create here. So all the encoding decoding should be from the same key. And let's move a little bit. We have something, yeah. So for the at last, I'll just quickly show. It's just that this was the login. This was the token API we have created using three parameters we had. One is the login ID, second one is the customer ID, and another one just a dummy called URL. So that was generating that token. And the second one is to logging in. So X01, we have created a parameter using our sentry function, and then token we are passing here. So the URL I was using to hit and getting into the system was this one to get into your application with the authenticity. And I think that should be kind of the demo. Hope I have finished in the available time here. So that was the whole idea of JWT.
Oh, thanks, Ashish. Yeah, it was really a very good insight on the JWT. And if any questions are coming here, let's take up maybe in the end of this session, since we have a huge content waiting from Jan. So yeah. Okay. So let's welcome Jan Kvetina. He's experienced Apex developer, and he's developed a lot of things, and mainly he is a specialist on clean code, how to maintain a clean code. So he's also more certified person on Oracle and other PMI. So welcome you, and over to you, Jan.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. I will share my screen. So, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, if if you would like to reach out to me, then I am available on LinkedIn. So if you find me on LinkedIn, then I am accepting basically all invitations. Then I would probably start with my blog. So if you find my blog, like the oneoracledeveloper.com, then there is the topics for these clean codes and for the certifications and other stuff you might be interested in. Like here is a tag for the clean code, and here are the articles related to the clean code. Today, I will start with the Apex blueprint and follow up with the object referencing, which is kind of like recent topic. So yeah, and if you have any questions or anything is like unclear, then you can jump and ask right away or at the end, whatever suits you best. Okay. So first of all, you should have some coding standards and naming conventions in your team, in your work. So all of you do basically the same or similar or compatible work. If you struggle with this, then read the blueprint, and here are some suggestions what you should do and what you should not do. For example, I'm not a big fan of hard coding, and it extends also to the object references. Like if you have an Apex application, let's do it this way. If you have an Apex application, like I have this one with multiple pages, it doesn't really matter what the application does, but if you open a page and you see I have two regions, one with the header with some buttons, and the second one with interactive grid, and there is some kind of report on. And usually it's done by like you provide a SQL query and you put all the query here. So this is typical basically for all applications, which I saw in the past, that you open any kind of report form or chart region and you will see the whole query in the region. So if your query is simple like this one, then it is questionable, but I would say it is much better to store all queries in database, like in a views, because then you will have everything, every business logic you will have in database on one place, and you won't have it scattered through the pages and regions in the Apex application. So you can put a query here. Like if you imagine that the query will be more complex and it will be like this long or longer, and typically you will have multiple joins and inner queries and stuff like that, then it is kind of hard to fix the query here. So you can add the extra columns or remove something or add a join here. You can do it in this editor, which was improved actually recently. So it is not that bad as it was in the past, but still you don't have a lot of tools available like you have in your correct editor. For example, here I can just select the part of the query and run part of the query to test the results. I can check the explain plan. I have these colorings, like you have them here too, but if you do like multiple lines of comments, then it will break. So yeah, for me, it is much better to have it on one place. So I would suggest to just use these references. So you will find your table or your object and just use it like this way. Then you can have your logic in a views. And yeah, it actually broke my connection. And I will show you in the database that I have like these views, and basically these views are the content for the Apex pages. Not sure if you can see it, but here is, for example, the logs view. And instead of hard coding the query here, I would just reference the correct object here. And if I'm supposed to make some changes on this page, then I basically don't do it on this page. I will do it in a view. So if I'm supposed to add a new column, for example, then I will add a new column here in the view. I will compile the view. I think we can try it. I will compile the view. Then I will just synchronize this region. So you see that there is no new column here, but after I synchronize the columns, then you should see the new column here. And basically that's everything what is required on the Apex side, just to synchronize the region after I change. And then whenever the logic here change, like it will, you can imagine that it will be 1, and later you can change it to 2, and you don't have to go to the Apex and change it there. You will change it here in the database, which have some advantages, like you are able to track the object dependencies between these objects. Yeah, and that also means that if you break something, like I will, if I'm using some other views on joins, which is very typical, and I break something and the other views are using my view, which I just broke, then everything will fall apart, like before you put it to the front end. Like if I change something and I check my objects, then I will see that I have some invalid objects, and I'm supposed to fix them before pushing the application to production or whatever environment you are using. So in this way, you have more control about your code, and also you have it on one place. So I think it is much better, and you also have an overview about all business logic, not in the Apex, but in the database. So you can also use the code searching, again, the dependencies and stuff like that. I understand that there are some points, like where you export, for example, the page, and you just deploy the one page to another environment. And then it is easier to have the query written here, because you don't have to care about the database objects under this page. But again, with the correct tool, you should be able to work with both. For example, I'm using a tool of mine which I created, and that will pick up all the changes in the database and in the Apex page. So if I for example change the logs overview view, I added the column here into this region, and if I save the page and run the tool, so it will pick up the changes in the applications and in the database, and it will tell me that there are some changes in the view. I just changed this one view, and I changed the Apex application. So it will also tell me what was changed. And it's pretty quick usually. And then in my version control system, I can easily check what actually changed. So here you can see that I changed this one page in Apex, and I see that here is my change in the Apex, that I added this new column region, and I also changed the view in the database. So when I do these changes, I usually commit it under the card or whatever you use, and I'm done. And when I'm supposed to deploy these changes, then I will just pick the view and pick the page and deploy both of them together. So if you have some kind of standards for the CI/CD pipeline, or like any kind of versioning, then it is actually easier to track these objects and not the queries on the page. Because usually you see that if you put the long query here, then the change on the page, which you see like here, then the change will be actually unreadable, because it will be like too many changes, too many quotes, and you would really have hard times to imagine what actually changed. So yeah, so I think this is a way to go, and you can do this on regions. You can do this also on the LOVs. So if you have a list of values and you have, like, I will pick one. Hopefully there will be an object name in another query. So as you can see that here is the object reference, the object name, which I'm using. And this has also some advantages during the export, because if I will change this object, which is a view, then if you imagine that I'm using this LOV like on 10 pages in Apex, and I will export the application, then in the list of changes, I will see like 10 changes, and every page which was using this LOV will be marked as changed, and you will see the new LOV query on each page, which is kind of difficult if you have a bigger team and you are working on the same pages or even on the same application. Then you will see also the changes made by the others. Like if you export the application, you won't see just your changes, you will see all changes. And if there are some distractions like these ones, because someone else changed the list of values and that also affected your page, so then you might be confused why you see too much changes on this export. Because yeah, it also contains the queries changed on these shared objects. But if you use the reference and change the reference object, then there will be no changes on your page. So it's actually more readable. And yeah, I think it's better because also you can also select like the objects from the dictionaries. So for example, you can see on what pages and what regions you are actually using which objects. So you can build up a map of objects reference on the pages. I will show that to you next time, I promise. So I think this is the main issue and main advantage. If you would at least try to do it this way, then I think it will be much more readable to others. For example, if you open a page and you are not familiar with the page, then you can see from the layout that it has like multiple pages, multiple regions, and it's actually tabs in tabs. So I have like 3 tabs on the page, and if I pick one, then there is a one hero region with a header and again with some buttons, and there is the grid with some data or some report, and it is using the referenced object. So I know, and this goes for the other regions too. So there is another region and another view, and same for the last one. So I can check these objects in the database and explore what they do in my code editor. So I can actually like open these 3 views and check what they are doing. I can do some changes. For example, if I see that the calculation is wrong, or there is something missing, or there should be a left join and not an inner join, then I can change it, compile it, and I'm done. So I think it's much more easier to do it here because you have the also the compilation warnings. Like if you put a query here, then the Apex will check the query, but it will check it just once while you are saving the page. And if something changes in the future, like you are referencing a function in the view, and the function does exist when I'm saving the page, but I will drop it later, then you will not know that the page is actually broken. And the first one who will tell you will be your user. So when the user will come to this page, and he will get the error that the page is not able to load because there is an error on some region that is actually preventable if you use these object references. Because if the function will be removed, then if you check the invalid objects, then you will also see that, hey, I have an error on this kind of views, and I have to fix it before I can proceed. So I think it has many advantages of this. I wrote about them on the blog. So if you are interested in this topic, then there is an article about this object referencing, some stories, some advantages and disadvantages. So yeah, you can go through, read it, and if you have some questions, you can also ask me, and I'm available on the LinkedIn. And you can also ask now if you have any questions or anything. Do you have any questions, guys?
Yeah, hi. Jan, I think we have some more 10 minutes like that. Maybe you can add any other topic, or you can also suggest some of the CI/CD pipeline for the benefit of many of the users and tools which might be helpful.
Okay. So yeah, if you, I think it's also a good idea if you have an application to, and it's a new application or even existing ones, if you don't name the pages like one by one, if you leave some gaps in the numbers, because then you can keep similar things together. So for example, normally this application or any applications look like this one, that you have a huge list of pages and you basically don't know what is related together and what is not. So I like to use the page groups. If you go to any page, you have an option to specify a page group, and you can create your own page groups if you go here and in the page groups. So here in utilities page groups, you can specify a new group, and you can also assign existing pages to groups. And I use my own report, which is like very simple. It's just the control break per group. So I will use the group name as a group control, and then I can see, for example, group dashboard, and these like 12 or 15 pages, which are related to the dashboard, and I can see them together. So if you imagine that you have an application with hundreds of pages, then this is really a huge advantage to have them sorted like together. So because you can see if you have an error on for example on some dashboard, then you know that it is related to these pages. And if you are supposed to change something, then again you are aware that there are some pages which are related to this page. And with the numbering, with the page numbers, if you leave gaps in these numbers, and you decide to create a modal dialog or any kind of pop-up or another page, then you can use the, if I would like to use the modal dialog on this page with the users, then I can create page 921, and it is close together. So you know that it's related, and if you are finding something, you are not jumping from one page to another. If I create a modal dialog on this page, I will show you new page, and then I will use the page number which is close to this page. And then if I'm changing something, then I can go easily back to the parent page, get some information or create a link to the new page, and they are close together. They are close together in any kind of lists, even if it is not grouped by the group pages. So I think this is also a great advantage, and it is very simple to use. You just create the pages and create the groups and assign pages to these groups. And whenever you start creating a new page or new application, then if you leave 5 or 10 numbers in your page numbers, then you will have a space to actually create some related pages. I usually go with these three digits, but you can do 4 or whatever you need. It depends on the size of the application. Like if you have 100 pages or more, then you might use the 4 digits, but I think you will be fine with 3. And yeah, and the question for the CI/CD pipeline, I have a tag which is called the project OPI. It's this tag. You can see it here in the URL. So if you check the blog, then here are some articles. I would suggest to start from the bottom one. And there is an open source project of mine on GitHub, which is under the MIT license as all of my work. And here is some explanation what it does, that it exports all objects from the database, it exports some data from the database, it exports Apex applications in multiple formats. It's basically like if you imagine that you have this kind of database with some tables, views, sequences, packages, whatever, then it will go and it will export it to this kind of folder structure. So you have this database folder. Here are your tables. So you can see it's all the same. It's apps, and you have the apps SQL here, and it exports everything like in the same way. Here's a list of views and files for the views. So it is basically the same. is exporting the content of the database into the files. So if you check the application file, and there is the file or content is to create the table. You have some alignments, you have some constraints. It also exports the comments, and you have it all one place. So when I do some change, then I will see it here in the GitHub. So this tool is basically exporting the content of the database. So you see that it is views, triggers, tables, all kind of objects, even jobs, even grants. And it can also export data from the selected tables. And it is also exporting the Apex application in multiple formats. So you have the full export, and you have also the component export. So you have all the pages exported like in individual files. So if you want to deploy to another environment, just page 9.10.0, then you can just grab this file and push it to another environment. And it's also exporting like the embedded codes and some other things. And it is doing some kind of light cleanup. Like if you imagine, I will show you in a history. If I see, for example, usually you see just these line numbers or just these IDs from the Apex or from the individual components. Like this is the authorization rows. Again, I will show the authorization rows in the application. I have these schemes like is active user, is administrator, is developer. And if you export the application in a normal way, then you will just get the ID. But the tool is kind of enriching this export, and it is telling you that it is the is developer role or the is administrator role. So for many of these components, like the authorization schemes, list of values, for example, this is a list of value. So it is adding a name to that component. So you know just from the content of these changes, you know what actually was the change about. Because if you see just this number, then you don't know what is this about, and it is very hard to read these changes. And it is also preventing some changes, like if you are using the interactive reports and grids, and users will come and change the reports, then you will see that it changed your page, even if the page is not actually changed. So I'm also replacing some. I will show on the page. I'm also replacing some timestamps and some values. Like this, you can see that it was changed by this user def, and it was changed on 1st of January 2022, and this is not actually true. It's replaced here every time, so you don't have some false positive changes in the GitHub desktop or whatever tool you use. Well, yeah, that is a bit complex topic, but in this kind of tool, you can explore it on the GitHub. I'm happy to help you with some issues you could have. There is also the manual for installation. So if you scroll down, then there are many explanations and the list of things what you will need to have this tool running. But once you do and you have set it up, then it can also create a patch files for you. So if you would like to move all these database objects with the Apex applications to different environment, then this tool will basically create the install script for you. So you don't have to do anything. Yeah. Now, do you have any questions?
Yeah, the same
Hello?
question. Yeah.
Hi, Jan. I was just wondering, what is the name of the tool that you were talking about?
It's the OPI. And if you go to my GitHub or to the blog, then you can find it there. And I will share my screen again. But again, it is on my blog. If you go to tags, and in tags you will see the project API, and it is also on my GitHub. If you go to GitHub.
Would it be possible to put the link on the chat box if you don't mind?
Yeah, I don't mind. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Chat. So you can find, here is my GitHub for the project. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm there like, I think this is this one. So you can use, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and there is also the, it's not working, the blog. Oh yeah. I think these are all you need.
Yeah. So is there any automation that we can do using that OPI tool, like daily evening we want to take a backup and
yeah, you can automate it, and you can do like the daily backups of whatever you have in the database. I usually use this as when I finish something, then I will export whatever is in the database. I will mark my changes because sometimes there are changes from my colleagues. So I will just find out which changes are mine in the database and in the Apex, and I push them to the Git or Bitbucket or whatever you use on your project. And yeah, you can, and when it is time to deploy the new version to UAT or production, then I will just create the page script from this tool, and I deploy the file which was generated by this tool to the other environment. But yeah, you can use it like you have backups in Apex, but you can do this even with the database objects or even with the data. I showed you that I export, for example, the list of values tables, or the list of users, or list of user roles and stuff like that. So you can export it to the CSV files, and it will also generate the SQL file for you. So you can just run this file on the different environment. So if you add a new role or add a new item to the list of values, then it will be, first of all, it will be picked up as a change in this tool. So you can commit it to your Git or Bitbucket. And then if it is time to push this change to another environment, it will create the SQL file, which you can run. So you don't have to track these changes manually, because you don't need to, yeah, the tool is doing this for you.
Okay. So it doesn't use any database to store that, right? It uses the GitHub.
Yeah, well, the tool is not even connected to the GitHub. It's just connected to the database, and it is getting objects from database to file the two files on your file system. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So I use this tool to export the object files to files on my file system. And then I use GitHub Desktop to push them to Git or Bitbucket. And that's it. It's like separated.
Okay, great. Okay, so thanks for your time, Jan. It's very much informative, and I believe many of our attendees have benefited out of it. Yeah, so once again, thank you, and we'll keep in touch. And thanks a lot, Ashish, for your time and sharing the knowledge as well. So uh, both of you, on behalf of INOAUG, I would like to say thanks, and I request all the members to attendees to become a member of INOAUG so that you can get the updates and access to these recordings as well. Okay, so until we catch up in the next session, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.